Antifa Nation. I am Bryn, she, her.
I'm Abby. He, they.
Yeah, so we just wanted to go ahead and do a little reintroduction because recently I have had some viewers that are more new to my streams that aren't actually a part of Tran. So to any of y'all watching this, I just want to say a big hello. So with this topic Tuesday, what we're going to be discussing is hormone replacement therapy, what they don't tell you about it, what our lived experiences with that, how it's affected us, how it's changed us both physically, mentally, etc. And just some stuff that people don't really talk about involving it.
I kind of imagine this is going to. We're going to try to keep it as family friendly as possible, but there is going to have to be some discussion of body, like physicality.
Like penises and vaginas and clitori.
Yep, that's necessary. Oh, hello.
Hello, Michaela. How are you doing? I'm gonna say, Abby and I both got our coffee. He's got a decaf mocha. I got cold brew black coffee.
I'm a fancy boy who is allergic to caffeine.
And I just really, really want. Yeah.
If she could mainline caffeine, she would.
Okay, so,
It's not too scary. It thankfully, like, it's more like just people don't think to tell you stuff.
right? Okay, so I think where we should start is how both of us got on HRT. Abby, your story is a lot more complicated than mine, so I'd like you to go first. That way I can ask questions as you talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, because mine involves human tragedy, unfortunately. um, because I had considered going on HRT on and off for years. Just like since I turned 18, that was like my thought of like, do I want to do that? And people had scared me before, saying things like, how to phrase it, like, oh, it could make this certain thing worse because I had period pains. That was my big thing. They would leave me unconscious, and so like someone was like, period pain. They can make your period pains worse. I'm not answering that.
Oh.
And I could not handle that, so I was like delayed and delayed and tarried about it for so long. Then my dad got really sick, and I've talked about it on stream before. That this is kind of what pushed me to actually go on HRT. My dad had lymphoma, and he hid it for years from everybody until he was literally a skeleton, and it could not be ignored anymore. And even like his wife Deborah, like there was a certain level of denial going on with her. Like she loved him, she didn't want anything to be wrong with him. She didn't want him to be lying to her. But at a certain point, she can't deny that he is sick. And the biggest thing is that she noticed while they were on like a trip to see some family, like he always wore like button-up collared shirts, sometimes fancy, sometimes Hawaiian shirts. But she noticed he was so skinny, and he had a giant lump on his neck. And she couldn't ignore him being sick anymore. And so, like, all of us kids and all of the family got involved with that. And we had to suddenly get shoved into dealing with the reminder of our own mortality. Because my dad wasn't that old. Like, he was a bit old. He's an older dad. He had me in his 40s. But he was still not, like, he wasn't old enough that you're like, ooh, should we rewrite the will? He wasn't that old. But me and my brothers were all kind of confronted with this, and our stepmother was too. Honestly, like, me and my stepmother have issues, but she was a saint during all of this. Like, she put up with a lot during all of this. And, like, as soon as that happened, like, as soon as Dad was getting sicker and sicker and sicker, And, like, I'd seen him and seen how bad he was. Because, like, from hearing that he was sick to, like, a week later, people keep calling us. Goodness graciousness.
Let's put it on speaker.
You know?
Your file just came across my desk, and it looks like your vehicle may be at risk.
Is this automated?
In order to prevent extended warranty from
Dang it.
expiring.
Whenever it's a real person, I like to play with them a little bit, but whenever it's automated, there's no fun to it. You're saying?
But, yeah, so we see that he's so very ill. And my thoughts go to, if he dies now, if he dies in a week, I will have lied to him for my entire adult life about myself. He will never get to know a me that is happy. And that is what kind of, like, that, and then the kind of thought of, oh, cancer runs in both sides of my family, as well as a bunch of other various illnesses. I don't know what time bombs are taking away in my own body. I do not want to die without being myself first. And so, like, all of these very heavy emotions are what spurred it on. And I couldn't handle, like, not being honest with myself and being honest with other people anymore. Because I realized, like, a lot of the reasons I had for delaying it, in the grand scheme of things, weren't going to matter. I also found out, by incident, that the person who's like, oh, they can make your period pains worse, was lying. Incorrect. I don't know if she was directly lying. But they were like, well, I have naturally high testosterone levels, and my gynecologist says that's why I have painful periods. And it's like,
That doesn't make any sense.
no.
From a biological standpoint.
It's like, turns out what I think had happened, the miscommunication, and this segues into one of the things they don't tell you about testosterone, or especially before you're on it. So, being on testosterone, like the level that we're on for HRT for trans men, it suppresses the estrogen level. And with that estrogen suppressed, a lot of things that the estrogen affects starts to atrophy. So that's your reproductive system. It starts to atrophy. And that can cause cramping. That is similar in feeling to a period cramp. Which I have noticed happening a bit because I have had quite a bit of atrophy. Just in the sense of, like, the muscles that are in your hips and all of that, and in your diaphragm and all of that, are used to that organ being there. They're used to, like, the uterus being the size it is. And so when it atrophies and gets smaller, the muscles have to strain to keep everything in place. And sometimes if you get a hysterectomy, it will lessen that. It won't get rid of them completely, probably, because, again, the muscles are trying to compensate for something. But, women, like cis women, go through hysterectomies all the time and can deal with it. So, or can, like, have treatments that help them. So it's not limited to trans men, and, like, there are solutions.
Right. So I'm going to talk about me getting on HRT, how it all happened. And this is actually a really good time for me to practice my voice. Hi, I'm Bryn. How are you, Gorge? You don't get to laugh.
No, you're cute.
I am so sorry about this person right here. I don't know him. I've never met this man in my life.
You say living in my house. Okay. It's our house.
I was about to say your house. Who pays the mortgage?
Right now, both of us.
That's right. It's not your house. I'm about to leave and take my half of the house with me. There's a giant moving trailer. And just get out a chainsaw. Be like, okay, I'm taking this out.
Okay, but leave my craft corner. It gets to you all accurate.
Oh my god. I love that this is the equivalent of you and I getting into an argument in a freaking old ass relationship. Okay, so, my journey on HRT. So basically, for those of you that don't know, I work medical, and I have lung issues. I have... Basically, my lungs are 2/3 the size they should be. They are smaller than they should be because they were underdeveloped, and due to various reasons, they couldn't really recover from that. And so it's very common for me to have coughing fits, to sneeze hard. I'm gonna say this, don't freak out. Coughing up blood happens with me sometimes. To his horror.
First time it happened, we were watching Puss in Boots. No, wait, it wasn't Puss in Boots. I saw that with Jerkface.
How old were we?
We were, like, just moved out, so, like, 19.
Yeah, that was the first time he saw me cough up blood. Fun times.
A little bit.
You're a very damaged... You have no idea. Thankfully, I've been through a lot of therapy. Okay. So... It was at the start of the, pandemic. And me being me, I knew, like... One, if anyone's gonna get sick, I'm gonna get sick. Because we already lost a few nurses, and... Things weren't looking good at the start of the pandemic for us medical workers, especially those of us on the front lines. Sorry, I ordered a bunch of stuff to upgrade my gaming setup. That way I can do better streams and everything for y'all. And now we have a whole bunch of boxes back here, and the cats are very excited. And I need to do some laundry. Michael, are you having fun?
Yeah, Michael is having fun.
So, basically, I was like, okay, the chances of me getting this are very high. And then add into that, if I get this, I am dead. Like, there is no way I'm really going to be able to survive this. Michael, that is styrofoam, my dude. So... Basically... Buddy. We are trying to record, my guy.
You know. What if I just keep petting him?
Maybe. I was gonna say, I have a squirt bottle around here somewhere. I don't know what happened to it.
He's trying to dig a hole through the styrofoam.
Buddy, we should take that from him. It's really not good for the audio quality.
I thought it's not good for him if you ingest it. Down the way. Okay.
Oh, the life of a streamer. Okay.
And
cat owner. So, basically, I had been through a very similar thing Abby had been through, or I was having to confront my mortality. And prior to this, I was still living in denial about being trans. I was like, oh, I'm not trans, I don't have to think about all this, I don't have to do all this. This definitely 100% isn't dysphoria.
Got some styrofoam in my coffee.
Oh no. But this kind of made me confront it and made me think, okay, if I had the option, I would rather live as a girl. So why am I not doing that? And it basically boiled down to a whole bunch of internalized transphobia, combined with some trans-medicalist rhetoric that I had picked up whenever I was a teenager. And about a month after realizing I was... Buddy. I'll be right back.
he can play with the bugs and not continuously distract us.
Okay,
Especially me, because I keep wanting to reach over and
so, as I was saying, about a month after I had started, after I had realized I was trans, and after I had taken about a month to come to terms with it, I had decided to pursue HRT. Basically, I live in a informed consent area. So long as you're an adult, or you have the consent of an adult, you can basically take whatever medication you want, so long as you've spoken to the doctor and you adequately understand all the side effects. And yes, he is a very distracting boy. But I had gone to see a doctor. I'm not going to mention her name or the clinic for personal and safety reasons. But, I had gone to see her, talk to her. She told me everything about HRT, what it can do, all this other stuff. And I agreed to it. And then that same day, I was able to go and pick up my first prescription of spironolactone and estradiol. And since then, I have been taking that. My doses have normalized. I now take 25 milligrams of spironolactone and 2.5 milligrams of estradiol. My testosterone levels and estrogen levels are both super, super good. They're basically right in the green zone. I love having informed consent. Yeah. Some of the changes I've noticed after being on HRT that the doctor didn't really talk about is the direct effect it would have on my mental state. Now, let me be clear. HRT is not some magical, cure-all for mental illness. It isn't an antidepressant. It doesn't do all this other stuff. But it will have effects on your mood, on your emotions, etc.
mostly because it is directly acting on a thing that is in your life that makes you feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And when you remove the thing that makes you feel bad, you feel better.
Right. So yeah, I started to take the estradiol and Spiro, and at home I started to dress like a woman and let myself be feminine. Because before this, I had... Exactly. Thank you, Michaela. But before this, I had been one of those guys that was like, I have to be masculine, and if I'm feminine, I have to be feminine in a way to assert my masculinity. Like, haha, look at how masculine I am, I can wear a dress. And of course, I used to be this 300-plus pound bouncer guy that everyone would get out of the way of because I looked like I was walking to kill Captain America. If you can't tell by the still pretty large size difference, even though I've lost over 100 pounds, and I am now at 190.
She's also just taller than I am.
Right. I just like looking at the camera and just seeing the sheer difference in size.
That, and I'm a little bit behind you, so it's a bit of a forced perspective.
Huh, that's fair.
And also, I slouch like a crazy person. I am a goblin.
You are. Hi.
I've got a lot of shiny rocks. It's how it happens.
Shiny Rocks is just the beginning. I love you.
I love you too.
But yeah, they didn't tell me the sheer amount of effect it would have on my mood. Just being on the estradiol and Spiro, knowing that I was taking steps towards looking like how I wanted to look, towards being who I wanted, being able to dress at home the way I wanted, and finally being out, it greatly improved my mood. It helped my depression, my anxiety, basically got rid of my alcoholic tendencies.
For the most part.
For the most part. There are still some times whenever I start drinking and it's like, okay, I'm gonna take a sip of this. So I'm gonna down this entire bottle of whiskey. Oh hey, there's a jar of moonshine. I'm gonna down that entire jar also.
And then not remember the rest of the night.
Yeah. Don't do that.
But that is more what happens when you ingest a lot of moonshine than alcohols. Moonshine, okay, we're from a southern state, so we know this, so you don't have to. Moonshine screws you up.
Your accent came out.
That was on purpose, don't worry.
It doesn't help that just about everyone here knows how to brew their own alcohol. So, like, even we brew our own mead.
I could make something stronger, but I like to follow the law as much as possible, and we're not supposed to do that without a license.
Right.
So I won't.
And just remember, kids, all things in moderation. If you do decide to drink once you're of age, then do it in moderation. I don't want you becoming alcoholics. I don't want you hurting yourselves. I don't want you doing anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that did greatly improve my mood, help with my depression, my anxiety. I haven't had a suicidal thought since I started transition. Well, I have had suicidal thoughts, but they weren't like the invasive, crazy thoughts that I used to have. Are you good?
Oh yeah, I'm responding to a comment, but like you with mouth movements.
Oh, okay, I thought you were like sitting there silently talking about me. I was like, dude.
No, sorry. When like you're talking and someone leaves a comment, I'll like do a very a quiet, very exaggerated like, oh yes, it is.
Got it.
So that people can hopefully read my mouth movements.
Okay. But yeah, the HRT did greatly improve my mood. It made me feel a lot better. And just being out made me feel a lot better. Like, whenever I came out at work, even though there are still people that I work with who dead name me, misgender me, who are very openly rude and transphobic whenever they're able to be, I no longer dread going into work. Like, I used to have anxiety attacks after nearly every shift. My job is incredibly freaking stressful. And I do not get paid near enough for it. I get paid just above minimum wage.
You should be paid at least $20, at least.
Yeah, I know.
Bare minimum, they should be paying you for that.
But yeah, I used to have like an anxiety attack on my way to work. I'd have one right after work. It wasn't great. But just being out at work, having people up there use my name, use ma'am whenever they're talking to me, instead of calling me sir. Stuff like that. Agreed. I love his reactions. But yeah, just having that at my place of work has made my job so much less stressful. And people at work have noticed the change. I have had multiple people comment on... Oh, I agree totally. But yeah, I have had coworkers comment on how much happier I seem, how I seem way less tired, how I seem to have a lot more energy, how I talk more. Which is terrifying because none of y'all know me before transition, but I basically used to be a mute because I refuse to admit that my voice gave me that much dysphoria.
But what's actually kind of funny is a character in one of my stories that she came up with, but she's lovingly gifted to me. That was based on her as a guy, or in guy mode, and I've elected not to gender swap it because
It's your character. You can.
It's my character now, and it's also the gender plays very important roles in the story I'm telling. But this particular character is I made the deliberate choice, making them selectively mute for the first several chapters.
Right. But yeah, I used to be incredibly mute. I would say the bare minimum I need to say for protocol and to be polite to the patients. And outside of that, I did not do small talk. If someone started talking to me and they were saying things, it would just be like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It would just be that. And now I'm actually going up to people and being like, hey, did you have a good weekend? Okay, that's nice. I'll see you around. And, whenever I first started talking and stuff like that at work, I actually had people come up to me and be like, hey, are you okay? Is everything going okay at home? People were worried about me because I was suddenly talking way more than I used to, even though it's still considerably less than, most people. So that's fantastic. It just, I have basically become a much different person just because I'm that much happier.
And when she did talk at work previously, it was mostly calling certain people morons. They were morons.
I earned the nickname the bitch of the OR. Okay. Hi.
It was the punk of the OR before transition.
Yeah.
The nickname has transitioned with her.
Yeah, the name did transition with me. That is fantastic. There's this guy that I don't get along with, and he and I constantly have, like, these silent arguments where, like, we'll be angry at each other, and then we just won't talk to each other, and we'll just be like, they suck, I hate them, to everyone else. But what I love is that whenever I started transition, he was one of the very first people to come up to me, ask my name and the pronouns I preferred, and now, even when he's complaining about me behind my back, he still uses my proper name and pronouns. And it has honestly given me a huge new range of respect for him. I have been way more patient.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I love it. But yeah. Let's see. Abby, what are some things that they didn't tell you would happen on T that surprised you?
Okay, so the thing is, when I first started on T, what everybody was saying was, it's gonna make you angry. Like, you're going to notice that you, instead of getting sad, you get angry. And, while I didn't experience that much at first, I did actually get properly angry a bit, which is weird for me, because I'm usually a very, when I get angry, I start sobbing, and that did happen at the beginning, too, but it kind of was, like, fossilized into, alright, listen. I'm gonna make one thing real clear to y'all. Shut up. But, also, I did punch a shower.
That was great.
But that was also that, like, my entire life was, like, exploding at the time. That shower was acting up and it needed to be punched. But then, the thing is, after a couple of months of that, after a little bit of feeling, like, angry all the time, then, like, it's like suddenly I became chill. It's like a cool chill washed over me, like, I'm just fine. You know what? I'm fine. Things are going wrong, that's fine. We can fix it. Things are weird, alright, that's fine.
Right?
Yeah. So sometimes it's like when you're really angry and like you need some way to get that anger out and you don't have good coping mechanisms like I didn't because anger was not allowed.
Right.
Sometimes punching things is the most cathartic thing you get.
So, just a reminder, it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to feel them. You have to be allowed to feel them in order to learn how to handle them. So, parents, if you're watching this, don't get onto your kids for being angry, depressed, upset, etc. Let them feel the emotions, that way you can be there to teach them how to properly control them and use them, and if not able to use them in some kind of productive way, how to safely let them go.
Because that was my big problem is, again, yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just good to throw it against a wall. Make sure it's not the wall that has all your shit hanging on it. Excuse my language.
Or...
Oh, thank you. I had a bit of a manic phase. And I shaked it off.
Or you could always handle your anger like I did in high school and go beat up all the bullies.
Or, catfish pedophiles.
Or catfish pedophiles. Honestly, we should do a Topic Tuesday where we just talk about the weirdness that was our teenage years.
Yeah. And our early 20s, let's be real.
Yeah.
Almost broke into a house.
Yeah.
We didn't because it turned out it was actually inhabited. We thought it was an abandoned house that was maybe haunted.
Right. For legal reasons, I have to say
This is a joke.
this is a joke. We are not admitting to conspiracy to commit crime.
Where the cops can hear us. Okay. I am kidding. I am kidding.
Were the classes I took in street law a joke to you? But yeah, something they didn't tell me about estrogen, which I kind of wish they would have, is the changes in my sexuality. So, for those who don't want to hear about it, trigger warning, I am about to talk about my genitalia and the changes it's brought about in me in regards to my sexual attractions and proclivities. I am not going to be discussing kink. I'm not going to be discussing anything like that. I am doing this purely for informational reasons. Because I'm not going to sit here and treat y'all like children. Y'all are young adults. Y'all are teenagers. If you're one of my viewers, you're probably either a teenager or you're in your early 20s. That seems to be my demographic.
Yeah. And honestly, like, sex education is so terrible, especially in America. I don't know if it's like this anywhere else, but I'm gonna say especially in the southern United States, where abstinence only is like the done thing, and you aren't allowed to talk about any other kind of sex ed.
I hate it. I really do. Okay, so gonna put that down so that I quit playing with it and stop distracting the chat. You should see what I can do with knives. I
Totally didn't accidentally stab myself.
What?
Said you totally didn't accidentally stab yourself.
I've never accidentally stabbed myself. Right? And I hate that, especially because there's this weird view of, like, teenagers aren't allowed to really talk about or have an opinion on it. They're expected to be, you know, either the super pure, oh, I've never thought about sex, Mom,
I'd never kiss a man.
or super deviant. And I hate that because, like, as someone who was once a teenager, teenagers aren't like that.
It also opens them up to potential abuse by pedophiles either way.
Right?
Because if they aren't allowed to talk about sex ever, if they aren't allowed to have sex thoughts, then the pedophiles are like, ooh, I can use my knowledge of this to manipulate.
Exactly. I am thankful that though my parents weren't always the best, they did have a hard, fast rule that if I had any kind of... Aw, thank you. But my parents did have a hard rule that if I had any questions about sex stuff, I could come and ask them. And they were very legitimate about this. They did actually let me ask some pretty weird questions, and they answered them as honestly as they could. So long as they were very cishet questions.
My dad did too, where he was like, he told me about like sex stuff. Probably when I was too young. He gave me the sex talk when I was like 5 or 7.
Okay, that's a bit too young.
Yeah, that was a bit much. He wanted to... Apparently his sisters went through puberty very young, and he wanted to make sure I didn't. Or I knew what was happening if I did.
Okay. So, what they didn't tell me about, yeah, and I get that. That's very valid.
Yeah.
If you have any kind of sex ed questions or anything like that, there's plenty of cool online resources you can find, things that are run by, like, WebMD and some other, like, good, well-researched sites. I would definitely suggest that you check them out.
Planned Parenthood's website has so much information.
It really does.
It doesn't surprise me that the conservatives want to see it gone.
Right?
It's not just a thing about, like, oh, they provide abortion. No, that's not.
Oh, they provide education.
No.
But what I had been told was that being on estrogen might reduce my sex drive, my want to procreate. And I had been told that I would experience some shrinkage and atrophy down there. What I hadn't been told was, and I am not the only one. I have talked to multiple trans people who have experienced this. Multiple. It can change your sexuality. Because sexuality, just like gender, is not binary. You are not just bi or hetero or homo. Like, everything is on a spectrum, you know? And a lot of that spectrum is based on your relationship with your body. And so as your body changes and as your mental state changes, your relationship with your body also begins to realign. So whereas before I had a very, very hard leaning towards, oh, I like men, I want to date men. Sure, I can, like, have girlfriends, and I can do things with them, sexually. I am not romantically attracted to women in the same way. But after being on estradiol for a while, and after, like, my mental changes, my physical changes, I do enjoy sexual activities much more than I used to because no more, significant lack of dysphoria. And that's kind of changed my relationship with both other men and other women. So now, though I do still have a genital preference for individuals that have penises, I am significantly more attracted to women to the extent where I now have a girlfriend. Which is wild. I never thought I'd be a lesbian, but I am in super lesbians with this girl. Hi.
Which is kind of funny because, like, most of your previous state mates that I've known have also been women, but
Yeah.
like it was always for a purpose.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you vibed with her super hard.
Yeah, it was because they either validated me or other reasons that I'd rather not discuss on stream. But yeah, it did significantly change my relationship with myself and my body and my relationship with my partners. To the extent where I feel honestly like my sexuality has changed. Whereas in the past, I would have considered myself pansexual, but leaning towards wanting to romantically date men. I now consider myself fully pansexual but demi-romantic, where the only thing that matters is whether or not me and the individual vibe on a mental level, get along really well, you know, on an emotional level and everything. Then I can see myself romantically being with them, even if they are a woman. So yeah, that's something that wasn't really talked about, and whenever it was discussed in the True Scum circles that I was in at the time, even though I didn't participate, I still went to transmedicalist stuff because I thought that was correct at the time, because I'm a medical worker, and this is definitely backed up by science, isn't it? Turns out it's not. And a lot of transmedicalists will vehemently deny that this is a thing, even though a lot of transgender people, a lot of the evidence points towards it being a thing. To the extent where if you do experience this and you are a transmedicalist, they will try to write it off as either you not understanding your own body or sexuality, or your dysphoria acting as a cloud that somehow blocked your true sexuality and identity.
And
which is very infantilizing.
Yeah. And while I think like there's a tiny grain of truth to it,
Yeah.
of like dysphoria hiding or making things more uncomfortable to think about.
Confirmation bias, yeah.
Yes, confirmation bias. Then like the thing is just your body chemistry changes so much about everything. Like people who have long-term medical problems, suddenly getting those medical problems fixed, like, can sometimes feel like they're almost a totally different person.
It really can. See, transition scares me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It seems so terrifying. Like, especially because, like, especially with the transmedicalists, they push so hard on the, you have to have surgery.
Right.
Or else you're not really trans if you don't get the surgeries. And the thing is, there are many, many reasons that someone might not want surgery.
Right.
And all of those are valid as heck.
including just not wanting it. If you feel like a woman, if you want to be a woman, if you want to identify as one, even though I don't personally like identity language, because I don't identify as a woman, I am a woman. Whatever's going on. If you're a woman, I don't care if you have surgery, if you're on HRT, if you dress like one. You can dress and act however you want, and your body is none of my concern. I want you to know that you are valid and you are loved. And that we all have our own decisions to make, and I know it can be super hard. But yes, there's something I want to talk about after Abby talks about things that he didn't expect to experience on testosterone that no one told him about. And that's what I've seen nicknamed the trans broken arm thing, or the broken arm event. So I will let you talk about weird stuff on testosterone, and then I'll talk about that.
So for testosterone, first, like the thing I mentioned with the cramping was not quite something I expected. Like, they did tell me about it at some point during my doctor's appointments. They had a big packet of potential side effects. And, like, here's what testosterone can change. And handed it to me. And so there's a thing, because I've been open about this on the server. I don't think I've mentioned it on the streams yet. Or if I did, it's been a more passing mention. But I have a condition called Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension, which just basically means my brain makes too much spinal fluid, and it basically is drowning my brain in it. And it's also called pseudotumor cerebri because it mimics the effects of a tumor, even though that's not what's happening. Testosterone actually helps that. There's a thing where people who are diagnosed with IIH are usually women, or at least AFAB. And there's very few trans men who have ever been diagnosed with it. Yeah, it does kind of hurt. It's more that it caused vision problems and confusion, which was my biggest worry. Actually went to the an urgent care clinic at one point because I was so tired of all the symptoms I was having, because I thought I had some sort of infection. And they sent me to the hospital. Like, hey, if you're feeling confused, and dizzy and all of this, we're gonna make sure you don't have a tumor or a stroke. And I thankfully didn't, because, they gave me the MRI. They're like, everything looks normal. Probably just a weird migraine. Give you some Tylenol and kick you out. But the tea does help, because IH is theorized to be linked to estrogen or progesterone. And I already know I have a progesterone sensitivity, which sucks, and is probably why my periods were so bad, because the AFAB body makes progesterone on its own. It's one of the hormones that regulates the period. This is also a thing people don't tell you. Testosterone is one of many hormones
that everyone has. Male or female, everyone has testosterone, estrogen, etc.
Yeah. And testosterone is not the only factor in what makes you manly or look manly. I've been on testosterone on and off for a couple of years now. And while I do have a much more masculine face and my voice has changed...
And facial hair and body hair.
I do still have a lot of more feminine traits, quote-unquote, that little dysphoria having, but honestly, it just makes me feel like a 16-year-old boy. It feels like I just haven't hit my stride in second puberty yet.
Right.
But that also, testosterone takes longer to affect sometimes than estrogen does, or at least certain effects of it.
Because I've only been on estrogen about 9 months.
Yeah, and she's experienced a lot more physical changes than
Like booby growth.
yeah. Unfortunately, there's also a thing they don't tell you about your chest is, and I only knew this going in because I read online forums of FTMs, and FTMs like talk more about the side effects of tea that don't make it into the medical packets. When you're on testosterone, your boobs can change in shape, but not really size. Yeah. But sometimes people notice they get that like flat. Not in the sense of like, oh, boobs smaller flat, but literally like your boobs have been squished. Um, and honestly, that actually makes things a little easier for me because I can kind of like when I'm not just being lazy and just wearing a t-shirt, I can kind of almost like tuck my boobs away. Because again, I can't bind because like I have a larger chest and like some other stuff. And when I used to bind previously, I would get numbness in my arms and legs, and would get pain after only a couple of hours. And I realized that that was not a good thing. I couldn't do that long term. And uh, yeah,
Yeah.
but because I've decided like I am at this point I'm going to get top surgery. Mostly because God, I want them gone. I just want them gone.
Which hopefully will be happening very soon for him.
Because hopefully should be coming into a touch of money. Yeah. But I just like I have this sense of I would look much more masculine if I didn't have the boobs. Also, there's a theory that the boobs themselves produce a bit of estrogen. I'm not entirely sure how accurate that is. It might just be a wives' tale. But it does create like when you get them cut off, when you like people who have had top surgery notice like the first few days after getting top surgery, they have kind of a emotional crash about it, where they kind of like feel like, oh God, am I going to regret this? Was this a mistake? And then like a week later, they're like, no, this is actually great. But that is one of the things of why some people might choose not to get surgery. Is like that, and there's also complications every time you go into surgery, and especially for stuff like bottom surgery. This is one thing they don't tell you about surgery in particular, not necessarily HRT. You just kind of have to find out on your own, and I did, and that's why like I've been much more reticent about bottom surgery in particular. They have to take the skin from somewhere. They usually take it from your arm, which leaves you with a couple of big chunks of skin missing on your arm, and that can leave pretty obvious scarring sometimes.
It can.
And I scar super easy. I have a scar where my dog accidentally like ran too fast and her leash cut my hand. I've still got a scar from this like 4 years later. And yeah, any big surgery has that.
Yep, you are correct.
What's really funny is I have a big problem of I call it buyer's remorse. My brother has the same thing, my eldest brother, where we'll spend money on something, and kind of have this very immediate like, oh God, I've made a mistake. Oh no, how can I take it back? Kind of reaction, even if it's something we really liked. And it gets to me sometimes because like I am stupid and I buy a lot of little trinkets, but anything I actually want that costs more than $5, I'm like, nah. But if it costs if it costs less than $5, I'm like, trinket.
Right. So I want to talk about the broken arm thing. So That's what it's called in some of the transgender circles that I've been in, is the trans broken arm, and then it always has something else to it, like the thing, or the trans broken arm theory, or the trans broken arm experience. And what this goes back to is if you're trans and you go, say, to the ER for something as simple as a broken arm, something that even could be very emergent, you are almost guaranteed to have longer wait times in places like the South and whatnot than you would normally. And working medical, I have sadly seen this firsthand. I have had transgender patients where a lot of time is wasted because my coworkers are like, well, their sex right here is listed as male, but then look at this name. It's very clearly a feminine name. So, no matter what I do, I'm going to go in there and offend them, and then I'm going to get in trouble, and I'm going to lose my job. And it's like, no, you're not. That's fear-mongering, my dude. That's transphobia right there. That's not how any of this works.
Life ain't easy for a boy named Sue.
I guess.
I was listening to that song the other day, sorry.
You're good. But yeah, and it's not hard at all. Like, even before I was out, like, even before I came to terms with being trans, I had the reputation at work that I was the person you sent to transport or do patient sitting with a trans patient or a patient that was somewhat violent. Because I had that reputation of I was calm, patient, I didn't get angry or anything easy, and somehow I was magically able to not get people upset. And it's like, yeah, and it's depressing. Right? It really is. And it's like, oh, what's my secret? I treat them like freaking humans. Like, oh, their name is this, but their gender says, or their sex says this. Cool. I knock into the room. Hi, my name is Bryn. I'm going to be your OR attendant today. Could I ask what your pronouns are, as well as your full name and date of birth? Boom. Easy. Simple. I now know what pronouns they use. I know now what honorifics to use.
And if they get mad about it, it's usually not because they're trans.
Yeah.
Usually because they're offended at being mistaken for trans.
Right? Which is stupid. But yeah, I have had, like, patients say to me, like, hey, thank you for asking me my pronouns and everything. You're the first person to do that. And everyone else has been kind of weird around me. And I've had to, like, apologize to them and give them information on, like, how they can report it and assure them that they are totally fine. They're not in the wrong at all, and it's going to be okay. And I shouldn't have to do that. That is not part of my job description. And on top of that, I shouldn't have to do that for any of my patients, period. We are here to help them. We are not here to sit here and have some kind of weird freaking crisis over helping them because it goes against some stupid thing. Ugh. I agree. They are very stupid. If you are watching this and someone asking you your pronouns honestly offends you, I don't want there to be any question to it. I think you are stupid. Period. Hi.
And it's like, even if it's fairly obvious, just asking is being nice.
Right? It's just a sign of respect.
And, like, also, to some people it's obvious, to some people it ain't.
Right? But yeah, I've had coworkers who would legitimately postpone things and all this other stuff because every little second, it counts. If, someone spends 5 or 6 seconds here talking to this person about, like, oh, how do I handle this? And then goes to talk to this other person about, oh, well, how do we file this if this and this? Like, it adds up, especially in a medical emergency. Every second counts. Like, if I'm transporting a level 1 trauma from the ER up to OR with a nurse and I, like, you're getting out of my way. I don't care if I have to pick you up. I will insult you. I will yell, scream loud to get your attention. But you are moving out of my way. Because that patient is what matters to me. I can deal with an upset coworker. That's fine. Right.
Like, I noticed the Bath and Body Works at the mall recently had the employees who, some of them wearing pronoun pins, and that was like a really nice touch.
Right? And like during the BLM marches and all that, because I lost it, so I don't wear it anymore, but I used to wear this pin on my badge, which was just, it was the, what you call it, the fist with the different skin colors in it. And then it had a pride flag behind it with the trans colors on it too. And I would wear that casually on my work badge. And there were multiple occasions when I had patients say to me, "Oh, I see you have this badge. Hey, I just want you to know this and this. Hey, I just want to say thank you. Hey, this makes me feel a lot more safe and comfortable." Like, I've had patients see that badge and see it as a sign that they can trust me more, that I can give them better access to information, that I can answer their questions more honestly, that I can help direct them where they need better. And that sucks because I don't have a lot of info they want. I have to often explain, like, I cannot answer that question legally. Here's who you need to talk to. Here's how you can get a hold of them. Let me get a piece of paper to write down the steps for you. But yeah, the most notable experience, or the most notable event, why it's called the broken arm thing, is there was a transgender individual who was a trans woman, I believe, who had a broken arm, and she went to a ER for it. It should have been a super simple thing. Broken bones are...
Cast it, center.
They are very simple, but they are very dangerous because it can kill you.
If you leave a bone untreated and unset, the marrow can travel into your veins and give you a pulmonary embolism.
On top of, like, you know, various infections and whatnot. But yeah, they can be very dangerous. And there was a transgender woman who went into the ER, had a broken bone that should have been super easy, but thanks to people being weird and awkward on purpose, people being transphobic and treating it like some huge deal, thanks to people refusing to interact with her because it went against their moral code somehow, etc. And this was back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. But thanks to all this stuff, she sat in an ER and eventually she passed due to complications. And it's stupid. She should not have had to sit there for that many freaking hours with untreated broken bone, with stuff leaking into her bloodstream, getting to her heart. That shouldn't have been a thing. We all deserve better. If you're gonna sit here and be like, well, I don't want to use the wrong pronouns or any of this stuff because then I'm gonna get fired and lose my job and I'm gonna get imprisoned. That's not how this works.
No, you won't. People have said awful transphobic crap to Bryn and gotten away scot-free.
Literally, one of my coworkers went on a 30-minute anti-trans tirade, and they didn't even get written up for it. The only reason anything happened was because everyone else in the OR who likes me refused to interact with them outside of official business, and they felt so pressured and ostracized that they decided to quit. Which, thank you, coworkers. I love you. But yeah, that's not how any of this happens. It's a respect thing. I get dead named and misgendered a lot by coworkers that I have great respect for. They don't do it on purpose. They don't do it to disrespect me or anything. They honestly try to call me Bryn. They honestly try to use she, her pronouns, especially around patients who don't know I'm trans. They slip up. Accidents happen. But it's the fact that they respect me enough to make the effort. It's the fact that they respect me enough that whenever they say, "Oh, yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant ma'am," and then they just go about their business like nothing happened. It's the fact that they respect me enough to try to do that. It's the respect that matters. if you're going to openly disrespect me and make my workplace hostile and make me feel endangered, Anna, did you just hide in my bedroom this whole time? The other cat isn't here.
Anna has been under that bed for more than an hour, apparently.
Jeez. But it's the disrespect. That's what will get you written up and fired. Society as it is right now is a lot better. I can tell you that as someone that grew up in the 2000s and so, like, people are getting way less transphobic. It is still really bad in certain concentrated areas. But, for instance, my coworkers, there is such a huge difference between the young coworkers that are just coming out of med school, that are just getting out of nursing school, etc., and the older people that I've worked with. There is such a huge difference between the way they treat and interact with their patients. For instance, I've met a lot of the newer nurses who are much younger, who just add what's your name and pronouns to their intake paperwork. Like, that is part of their thing, and I've started incorporating it too because so many of them have. So whenever I go into a room, I don't just ask, "Hi, I'm Bryn. May I ask what your full name and date of birth is?" anymore whenever I'm getting ready to transport someone or something. I now ask, "Hi, I'm Bryn. I'd like to know your pronouns, your full name, and your date of birth, please." And it's just a super simple, easy thing that I add on. And whenever I ask it to a younger person, they're just like, "Oh, my pronouns are X, name is X, date of birth is X." Whenever it's an older person, sometimes I get questions, sometimes I get a lot of disrespect. But, like, there is such a huge difference between the younger generation and the old, and I am very, very proud of them. And I'm so happy to have my coworkers. And something I wish a lot of people would understand is trans people have existed. That's the end. I don't need to say when we started, because we've always been here. And an experience I had when coming out as trans was I came out and I had 3 coworkers come up to me. 2 trans women and a trans man. They had been working at the hospital for years. They had been working in the OR for years. They had been using the changing rooms and the restrooms without any problems. Everyone there knew them as their correct gender and names, because they had transitioned way before coming to work in surgery. But they came up to me and they revealed to me that they are trans and that they've got my back. But these same, like, there are other coworkers who have gone on tirades on, like, "Oh, well, you know, I don't want Bryn to be in the women's restroom because that's creepy and blah 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 and all this other stuff." Meanwhile, here's this 2 trans women that are sitting in the same room listening to you say this, who have been using the restroom in the changing room with you for literal years that you've had no problem with.
And then meanwhile, Bryn, who is recently out and so is still right now being made to use the men's room, like, people are being weird about it and ogling her, doing the exact behaviors they're trying to accuse Bryn of potentially doing.
Right? And it's like, I love it. I think it's hilarious because pre-transition, like, I've always had this, like, parent aura about me. Michael. But I've always had this kind of parent aura about me. I was always the dad friend before transition. Now I'm the mom friend. And I think it's funny because pre-transition, I would often be asked to go and get the linens and stuff out of the women's restroom because they trusted me to do that, even though I was a big freaking guy, right? But now that I've transitioned, suddenly they're uncomfortable with me being in there. These exact same people. And it's crazy. But yeah, I am thankful that I've had supportive coworkers, and we have existed out there. The only difference, right? But you're Michael, like, dude, you got a freaking nat 20 in freaking charisma, not including all your modifiers. Like, come on. But yeah, older trans people, which we've been out there. I have met transgender patients that were, like, old, like born in the 40s, old. Transgender people have always been out there. I have had patients see my transgender pin, and like one experience I had was an older woman saying, "Oh, my granddaughter has a pin like that." And I say, "Oh yeah?" And she's like, "Yeah, my granddaughter, she acts a lot more like a guy than a woman, but haha, who wouldn't want to be a guy, right?" It's like, "Oh, baby." And then that same woman goes on to be like, "Well, she's got the right mindset. I mean, whatever makes her happy, I can't blame her." It's like, yeah, maybe you should sit down and have a talk with her. um, but like, transgender people have always existed. The main thing, though, is that for older trans people, there were only cis-passing trans people who were able to go stealth, and then everyone else. And it was only this group that was at all accepted, and even they were only really accepted in a very marginalized and often fetishistic way. But now that people are starting to be a lot more out and open about it, it's just like gay rights. Yeah, there are still people that oppose it, there are still people that like all this other stuff. But there is a huge difference between whenever I grew up and the way LGBT people were treated, and the way they're treated now. And a lot of y'all are young, I realize that, but like, there is such a huge difference between being LGBT whenever I was 14 versus now. Like, grandma needs some cracking. That sounds weird. I love it.
Even in context, that's beautiful.
Right? But yeah, we've always existed, and we always are. The only difference is now we're trying to be open about it. And we're not going anywhere. You have my brick. And my axe. I like axes, by the way. Axes are great.
I need to de-rust our axe.
Yes!
I need to get vinegar.
I got a new axe. It's really cool. It's two-handed, and it's like... Anyway, I like axes.
It's okay. You're lesbian adjacent. You're allowed to.
Oh, very cool, Michael. I hope you post pictures about it on Tran. But yeah, we've always existed, and we always will exist. HRT is wild. It can do crazy things to you. Abby, are there any closing statements you would like to make?
There is one thing about testosterone the doctors will tell you about when you go to get it, but nobody else really talks about it, unless you're like deep in the weeds like I am. Bottom growth, where your clitoris starts to get bigger, will hurt like crazy at first. There is numbing cream that you can get, that'll help take the edge off of that until your body's more used to it.
Yep.
Also, some people don't get much growth at all. That's normal. Some people get a lot of growth. That is also normal. Pumps don't work. Pumps do not work. They may temporarily make things better. That is temporary. I'm saying that because like people try to use that to like permanently, and they can seriously damage themselves.
I'm just embarrassed. Keep talking.
Yeah.
Go on.
Because yeah, I see a lot of trans men being like, "Oh, and I tried to use the pump," and it's like, my dude, you're gonna screw that up. If you're trying to use it too hard, it can kind of detach some stuff, and that's not good. It's painful. So try to be happy with what you get. Try to come to terms with the fact that your body is not like anybody else's body. And it's how your body reacts to testosterone will be different than how anybody else's body reacts to testosterone.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know any of that. That is wild. What the fuck?
Yeah. Trans guys, the difference between trans guys and trans women is trans guys being guys are a little more reckless.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, something else that a lot of people, well, it's kind of known, but I do see that a lot of trans people who are still young, who haven't pursued HRT and other stuff, they don't have this info. So, just a reminder, for HRT, most effects will not appear immediately. The effects start to appear around the 6-month mark, most of the, like, major effects. Like, again, I've only been on HRT 9 months or so. My 1-year anniversary will be with my next doctor's appointment. Oh, very cool.
Hell yeah. Heck yeah.
Is that better? Can you hear us again?
There we go. Silent film, Pog. Well, the thing's moving now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so something that they don't tell you a lot about HRT and that most people don't find out until they've already started and stuff like that. Most effects will not happen immediately, and like Abby said silently a while ago, you won't notice some of the more subtle effects at the start because you look at yourself every day. For instance, I still feel like I just look like a dude in drag. Abby assures me I don't, as do many other people. And whenever I look at a before and after picture of pre-transition versus currently, I do notice a huge amount of difference. But whenever I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, I don't look different at all. Most effects, major effects, don't start happening until around the 6-month mark. Some of them don't even start happening until the 1-year mark. And usually, your transition from HRT and stuff like that, like, it's going to take around 3 years before all the changes are really done, and then you're taking HRT to, like, sustain the changes. I'll talk about that in a second, actually. So, to make HRT the most effective, some things that are important, and I'm saying this as someone who is bulimic. I am taking steps to be healthier. You need a little bit of fat in order to make it really effective. If you're super skinny, if you don't have any fat, anything like that, there's not going to be any fat to redistribute. You know, your boobs aren't going to grow as big and stuff like that for trans women. For trans men, it's going to make it a little bit harder to get rid of hips and some other stuff. You need a little bit of fat on you.
Honestly, everybody needs a little bit of fat. We have fat for a reason.
Right. And then in addition to that, you do need to eat and live healthier. You know, if you are eating a bad diet, if you're not getting a lot of sleep, if you are smoking, like, everything adds up, and it can hinder the amount of changes that you see, the effectiveness of said changes, and how quickly they happen. So by living healthier, by drinking plenty of water, eating healthily, getting plenty of sleep, getting plenty of exercise, you know, getting sunlight, making sure that you have the proper nutrients, all of that goes towards helping your transition and helping the HRT have a much more significant impact for you. So, I would suggest, before starting HRT, try and make those significant leaps in lifestyle change beforehand. Because it is a lot harder to start whenever you started HRT, because you will have emotional spikes, especially at the start. And it is just a lot to get used to, and then adding a whole bunch of other change on top of that will make it worse. So I do got stuff I gotta do today, so we're gonna cover this next question by Melody. And then I'm gonna do a follow-up stream next week, because there is actually more stuff I want to talk about in the same vein. So, in our experience, what effects happened sooner and which ones happened later? Abby, I'll let you discuss the transmasculine stuff first.
Yeah, for me, I've noticed what happened first were the emotional changes, which there's a lot of emotional changes. That is a big point for how HRT works and how it makes things better, is it changes your internal experience before it ever changes your external experience. And that helps a lot, like being calmer or like being able to experience emotions in a more masculine coded way. Again, emotions aren't either masculine or feminine, they're just coded certain ways, and it's easier for men to show anger through like being loud and yelling, and it's easier for women to show anger through like crying. That's
Right.
just kind of how things go.
That's me.
Okay. And so then the changes I noticed, like starting physically earlier on, were things like, for me, bottom growth almost started almost immediately. Also, changes in how I smelled, like my body odor changed almost immediately, like after like a few weeks. In fact, like I was at like a thrift store, and I was like, does that smell like the person next to me? That's an interesting smell. And like I moved and I was like, no, it's me. That's weird. Also, like Bryn has stopped like having much scent at all to her, which is funny.
Especially because I can't smell.
Yep.
I have anosographia, or anosophoria, whatever.
Anosmia.
Yeah, anosmia. The part of my brain that interprets the signal from my nose does not work. I cannot smell.
Yeah.
I can taste really freaking good, though. Like, I can taste the air really freaking well, and I can taste stuff in food that most people just would not pick up. It's great.
Yeah.
I feel like a snake sometimes. It's like, something's burning, and then everyone else, what? No, it's not. And then a few minutes later, something's burning.
But oh goodness, this actually helped us yesterday when Bryn was like, I taste burning, and I went over and I was able to track down the scent, so that we could fix it instead of burning our house down.
I gotta respond to Michael. Hey, Michael. You know what I can't... Wait, no, that would be way too pervy. Both of these girl nuts. Now I'm dysphoric.
But changes I noticed that started happening after a little bit were the fat redistribution and a bit of a voice change. My voice hasn't fully changed yet. I'm still very much in kind of a female register, but it has gotten noticeably deeper than from before I started it. Also, in the vein of just one of the first things to happen physically after, like, after your emotional changes and after some of the, like, odor changes, is so much body hair. Especially on your butt. Just so much.
This is the same for trans women.
So much hair.
You're going through second puberty.
There's gonna be weird hair everywhere.
There is weird hair everywhere. You gotta... Schick Hydro 5 is what I use for shaving my legs and my torso. It's fantastic. Abby helps me with my back sometimes, and I do wax occasionally. You just gotta learn to deal with it.
I don't really shave. It's gotten to the point where my butt is so hairy that I have to use wet wipes instead of normal toilet paper sometimes.
How do I enable you to clip? You know what? Mod. Ability. Okay, now you should be a mod, so that might help. But yeah, for me, the things that happened sooner versus later is the mental changes. Yeah, I trust you. You're a really good person. I mean, you're the whole inspiration for this stream. And on top of that, I've seen you interact on the server. Like, I have a lot of respect for you. You're just a really good young woman.
We trust you not to go mad with power.
Right? So, the changes that I first noticed being on estrogen. First off, emotional changes. I felt a lot more confident in my body, but I was also, all of my emotions felt like they were cranked up to 10 for like that first month and a half. I would cry at the drop of a hat if even the most inconvenient thing happened. Like, something slightly sad happened, and I would just be like, bawling my eyes out. But whenever I was happy, I was so happy. And that's something that's actually continued. And whenever I'm happy now, I feel way more happy. Like, before, it was like all of my emotions were in this fog, and I was just trying to experience the slightest essence of them. Whereas now, it's like, not only is the fog gone, but now there's a spotlight on them. They've gone through makeup. You know, they're sitting there on their casting chair, ready to go.
They're ready for their solo.
And it's weird, because, like, now I get happy, and I don't even think, and I start jumping up and down and clapping, or I grab onto Abby, or I'm like, ooh, fuck yes. Excuse my language. But, like, my emotions all feel like they're just 10 times higher. And they come out a lot more suddenly. And that's for all of them. Happiness, anger, eagerness. Like, all of my emotions are just ramped up to 10. But, like, it feels a lot more authentic. It feels a lot better. Then to add on to that, some of the other changes that I noticed. So for those of you that are trans women that want breasticles, around the 3-month mark, I started experiencing the starting stages of breast growth. Yeah. My breasts started getting very tender, especially around the nipple area. It actually got painful, and that's about the time that I started wearing sports bras, and I actually had to out myself at work, because working in OR, I do have to get changed before I go into work, because I have to be sterile and everything. And so I'm in this big changing room with a bunch of other guys that have seen my torso and everything. They've seen me nude a couple of times because, hey, I've been covered in blood and I gotta get in the shower ASAP, right? And now I'm walking in and I'm wearing a sports bra. And, like, I gotta get changed while wearing the sports bra because I don't want to show off my breasts. And on top of that, like, I'm losing weight because I'm not depression eating, I'm not drinking a ton, I'm not doing all this other harmful stuff. So I'm losing a lot of weight, which is making my breasts even more apparent. But then in addition to that, my nipples were so sore that by not wearing a sports bra or having something there to protect them, having them rub against my scrubs and all that was very painful.
Yeah, I remember, like, when it first started, like, at home, like, she'd put on a shirt and go, rah!
Right? It hurt. It really hurt. And that's whenever I started wearing sports bras, because they would sit on top, they wouldn't move as much, and it helped prevent pain. So that is something to be aware of. You can use Band-Aids, sports bras, etc. to try and protect that area from being rubbed against and everything. They will be much more sensitive. My skin is a lot more sensitive than it was, and that started almost immediately. Around the 1-month mark is whenever all the skin on my body started to become just a lot more sensitive. I get cold a lot more easily now. I get hot a lot more easily now. And in addition to that, I found that using the bathroom is a lot more common. I have to pee a lot more. I'm not 100% sure why that is, but that's a pretty common thing for trans women, and that usually starts around the 1 to 2 month mark too.
I think one of the Spiro is a diuretic.
Yeah, it is a diuretic. But even trans women that aren't on Spiro still have to pee a lot more. Right?
Something about female attitude just makes it have to pee a lot.
Sexist. But yeah. I'm only around the 9-month mark. I haven't even started to experience most of the significant changes. Most of the significant changes I've experienced is my hair is a lot healthier. I actually was starting to have some baldness at the start. which is, yeah, it's gone. My hair is a lot healthier. It's a lot easier to clean. It doesn't get as greasy as quickly. Apparently, I smell different. I don't smell as bad or as much. My facial fat is more redistributed, so that a lot more of it is here and around here, and not as much of it is around here, so... Like, you can't really see it because I don't got a ring light, but, like, it looks a lot different than it did. I got the breasticles. I have a lot more of, like... My body dips in instead of just being, like, a square like it used to be.
It's got an hourglass shape.
Right. My butt's getting bigger. That's been fun. Like, weird. It's a lot hairier. That's been hard to deal with. Second puberty sucks.
The weird thing is her hair is a lot finer.
Right?
It's a lot less, like, testosterone makes your hair a lot more coarse. And when she started estrogen, her hair started, like, while there started to be a bit more of it, it was much, much lighter and much, much more, like, thin and fine.
Right? Like, you can see my natural blonde starting to come out. My natural dirty blonde. And it's weird, because, like, it's weird. Only the women in my mom's side of the family are dirty blonde. None of the guys are. And I spent my whole life being super brown hair. And suddenly like a light brown, but still very distinctly brown. And now it's very clearly dirty blonde. That's okay. Just a reminder that I do upload all of my videos to YouTube, and I do, every Wednesday, I go through, I upload them, I make them public, set up their names, their descriptions, etc. So you will see it uploaded tomorrow on my YouTube channel, after the weekly call. And yeah, you can feel free to clip that, and, like, share it around as a meme if you want. I am totally okay with that. Yeah. But yeah, those are the basic changes. It doesn't change my voice. It's taken me a long time to reach here, and this isn't even where, like, my goal is. Because, just a reminder, this right here is what I used to sound like, and it feels really weird, relaxing my throat and let it go back to this. I'm sure it looks weird.
It just sounds weird, too.
Hi, I'm Kermit the Frog. Look, you need to calm down, or else we're gonna have to go out of here. I don't want to have to do this.
Go on, Miss P.
Right? It's so weird that I used to be a freaking security bouncer, dude, for, like, cons and shit.
Yeah.
Like, no one would take me seriously like that now.
I think some people still might. You're very tall.
I am the Viking woman. Oh, I can't really do a muscle pose right here. But yeah.
Especially not in the cute cardigan.
Right? Gotta take this off to show off my muscles. But, yeah, I've started losing a lot of weight.
Maybe you could do a Captain Carter cosplay.
Freak, yeah. But yeah, like, I haven't been working out as much, and I'm not really flexing as hard, but, like, I still got some muscle. I haven't lost it all. I like it. So yeah. I've definitely... My fat is redistributed a lot.
Mine too. I've got a belly.
But yeah, I haven't experienced a lot of the changes yet. Like, again, I'm not even at the 1 year mark. And the 1 year mark and 1.5 year mark is when most of the more significant changes start to happen. That's whenever I'll see a lot more breast growth, a lot more redistribution towards my hips, my chest, my behind, my thighs, my shoulders, stuff like that. And though it's sad to say, I do want to remind trans women out there, start voice practice early, because estrogen will not change your voice. Like, I can just relax my throat and go right back to this. It doesn't change it. You gotta work on it yourself. So, yeah, there are plenty of sources online you can find to help you with voice stuff. This is me at the midpoint. My goal... Hi, my name is Bryn. This right here is my voice goal, but it's a lot harder to maintain than the other voice, so it's something I have to build up to. But it is something that I am practicing in my spare time, especially while I'm practicing Dutch. Ik ben in Maja. Ik ben in schoonheid. Ik hou mijn perel. So, yeah, I do hope that eventually this will be my go-to voice, and that I'll be able to use this consistently without my throat killing me like it is currently, and without having to put a ton of strain on my larynx. The other voice that I usually default to is significantly easier to maintain because I've gotten really, really used to it. So, given enough time and practice, you do get used to it, and it does become much, much easier to default to. So, never give up.
Remember, your voice is an instrument. Use it with care.
Right?
Use it with love.
I do know that I was practicing this voice so much here recently that there was actually a time a few days ago whenever I was talking, and suddenly I had this really bad coughing fit while trying to maintain this voice, and it was like my voice just gave out to me, and I could barely talk for most of the day. Like, I drank a ton of tea, I had to let my voice relax, talking hurt, my throat was sore, and even now I can kind of feel my throat starting to be sore again. So it is something that you have to work towards. It takes a lot of practice. It is not something that you're going to reach instantly. And I understand how hard it can be to lose that focus, to lose that drive to practice because you hear your own voice and you're like, oh, this sucks. I am so dysphoric. That's one of the reasons why I don't actually do YouTube videos. Because even though I want to do essays, and I want to do reviews, and I want to do a whole bunch of other YouTube videos, hearing my own voice, seeing myself, it makes me very dysphoric. And so I can't edit those videos without having, like, mental crashes. I get it. It's hard. But I'm a bad bitch. Just like each and every one of y'all are. Man, woman, whatever you are freaking brave as hell. And I love you, and I'm proud of you, and it's hard, and you don't have to meet anyone else's standards but your own. And I just want you to remember that.
And I was in choir for several years, so I know that, like, voices do get sore very easy sometimes, especially if you have to strain it, basically, like, at all, a lot. So it is okay if your voice starts hurting a bit, but please be careful that you're not seriously damaging it. Hot drinks like tea. Avoid too much dairy. Avoid anything that creates a lot of phlegm. That can coat and damage your vocal cords if it's in excess. In fact, in choir, they will suggest you not drink milk for like the day or two leading up to a performance. Also, like a little bit of lemon, but not too much, because then the acid can have that other effect. Where you want to clean your vocal cords, for lack of a better way to put it, that doesn't sound creepy. You want to keep them, like, free and able to vibrate how they need to.
Right.
And if they're sore, that means they're not vibrating fully.
So yeah, you do gotta take care of your voice, and it is something you gotta build up to. And I would recommend small steps. I have found that is what helped me the most. Is just taking small steps here and there, practicing whenever I think about it, not forcing myself to practice, and just taking my time to be patient with myself. It does help, and you will get there, just like I am on my way to getting there. And I look forward to the way I look, the way I sound, and the person that I am in another year or even 2 years' time, whenever the more significant effects have taken place. And I mean, I've lost over 100 pounds, I've made the trans server, which pre-HRT, I could never have seen myself having enough energy to do. Like, pre-HRT, I tried to make a YouTube channel once that just focused on me reading out Pokemon Pokedex entries and talking about Pokemon. And I got so dissatisfied with it that I started working on it, and then quit it all within 2 hours. Versus now, where it's like, I get demoralized on a nearly weekly basis, and I bounce back like, nope, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be successful as a Twitch streamer. I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna keep the trend going at all costs, because I love helping people, and I'm going to be a freaking internet mom and ensure these people get better than I ever had. Because anything less is just not something I'm gonna freaking tolerate. We got this. Okay? So yeah, this is where I'm gonna leave it. I love each and every one of you. Y'all are freaking amazing and incredible. And I am now gonna have to go visit my grandparents because I already know how this is gonna go. I know that they're going to not accept me, but I need to check off a box. Right? They want to meet me and all this other stuff. They want to talk to me since I've started transition. I know they're not gonna accept me, but similar to how people used to use my brother as a weapon against me, being like, oh, if you transition, how will your brother get to have a relationship with you? You're stealing his little brother away. You're stealing that from him. And then it turns out that my brother is actually one of my biggest allies now, which is hilarious, and everyone hates it. This is just a thing I need to do. I know they're not going to accept me. I know this is going to be awkward, and I'm going to cry. And I'm already planning on getting myself a little bit of ice cream once I'm done. But this is just a box I gotta tick off for my own sanity. Just a reminder, tonight's stream, we finished Borderlands 2. So tonight will be the game Tell Me Why, which is about a trans man.
Tell me why. Sorry.
No, you're good. I just remember whenever I had a crush on all the Backstreet Boys. We are old.
I just liked their music. I liked pop when I was a kid. I liked to just listen to the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and just bounce on my bed, and then mom would come and tell me to stop, and I'd stop for 10 minutes. That's so bouncing again. But if I heard her footsteps coming close, I'd stop.
Thank you, Michael, for supporting me. Yeah, I love the fact that Backstreet Boys and whatnot, boy bands make a resurgence all the time. So it's back in the day you had the hair bands, then you had things like Backstreet Boys, now you got K-pop groups. And it's I don't get why people hate on the K-pop stans, because we did the same thing with the freaking punk rock and hair bands. We did the same thing with freaking Backstreet Boys and whatnot. It's just a repeat of history.
Let the teenage girls have their fun.
Right?
They'll realize, oh wait, we've taken it too far eventually. They'll be like, we should probably chill out.
Right?
Like they always do when maturity happens.
Right? Every generation has its set of boy bands. Right? Thank you. I agree. Don't die.
Sorry.
The reason he's laughing is
very differently, but
his dad is probably rolling in his grave if he wasn't cremated.
Yeah. My father was the DJ for a classic rock station for my entire life. He would probably be right now gnawing the inside of his mouth about that. But I can't say it's completely wrong.
It's not. Okay, so yeah, just a reminder, tonight will be Tell Me Why, and I'm going to play that game until it's over. I'm not sure what game I'm going to play next. I was saying that I'll play Skyrim, but looking at how many streams that would take, considering that doing a 100% efficient playthrough and completing only the main quests, all of them, not any of the Radiant quests, would take close to 300 hours. That might be something I save until I'm significantly more successful. That way I can spend 1 day out of a week doing that. I am not going to play Dead by Daylight. I do not like PvP games. I will stick to my RPGs and weirdness. But thank you. Well, then be sad, my dude.
Then suffer.
Your nat 20 won't work on me.
She's the DM. She has spot armor.
I will check it out. I will put some options up on the server. So yeah. I am planning on playing a playthrough of Doom because someone made me a transgender Doom skin. I believe it was Dawn. So I want to do a playthrough dedicated to her because she is freaking awesome.
Are you gonna play it like with that trans skin on?
Freak yeah, I am.
Heck yeah.
The only thing that would make it better is, like, if we were able to give J.K. Rowling a freaking skin and make, like, one of the main enemies her or something. Make one of the bosses J.K. Rowling. Hi.
Not now, sweetie. I'm cyberbullying J.K. Rowling online.
Oh my god. Doom gal, right? Okay, so I love you all. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for coming to the stream. I will see you tonight, and I will see you next week for next week's Topic Tuesday, which will be a continuation of this one, because there is a significant amount we didn't touch on. And I want y'all to be able to ask your questions about HRT. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to think about them ahead of time and send them to me live during the stream. I love you all. Make sure you eat and drink. Make sure that you take care of yourself, and make sure that you just keep going, because I love you all, and I want to see y'all succeed.
Take your meds, if you have meds. Drink your water, pet your cat.
Pet your cats,
Pet your dogs.
take your meds, drink your water.
Don't pet your fish. That's
Don't.
not a good idea.
I mean, fair.
It wipes off their protective bacteria layer.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I am not a fish biologist. Or a marine biologist. I am not a marine biologist.
I just know that because I like to learn, and fish were at one point a special interest because I wanted fish.
Got it. Okay, so, goodbye.